So, welcome back everybody. This is going to be a deck tech for one of my other favorite decks, Henzie, Toolbox, Torre. Gotta love that Jund action. So before I get into it, I just want to remind everybody to, like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, enjoying what I do. So, I guess, without any further delay, let's just hop into this. So, Henzie, he is a just straight up Jund, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green for a 3/3. And then each creature spell you cast with mana value 4 or greater has blitz. The blitz cost is equal to its mana cost. But then blitz costs are 1 less for every time you've cast Henzie from the command zone. So really fun tech with him because, when he's in play, he's reducing your blitz costs, but when your opponents kill him, he just comes right back and then your stuff is cheaper. So it kind of puts them in an interesting situation where there's no real good option on what to do. So Jaxus, he's kind of a backup option here. So what he's in here for is if Henzie gets removed maybe a few too many times, or you're just in a situation where you can't afford to play Henzie and you're kind of back into a corner, he really does a lot of benefit in terms of his 3 generic, 1 red for a 2/3. You pay 1 red and tap him. You discard a card, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste, and then when it dies, draw a card. So it kind of gives that pseudo blitz feeling. And if you really need to, you can blitz him out and then get the effect to give him haste and to just copy something. It's really got a lot of utility to it. Rhythm of the Wild. This one's great. 1 generic, 1 red, 1 green. Creatures cannot be countered, which is really, really nice because you got some disgusting bangers that come out and people are going to try and get rid of them. So, but it also can just kind of give them haste. I mean, that's what it's in here for, is another pseudo Henzie. So that way you're not losing out on the attack triggers because a lot of your creatures are going to have ETB, death effects, or just general attack triggers. So that's what that's in there for. This is going to get us into our ramp plan. So classic obligatory Soul Ring, got to have that. We do have Arcane Signet, get those colors secure because it's really important. Felwar Stone. A lot of our rocks are going to be 2 because we want to be able to make Henzie on 3 for sure. So just being able to secure those different color pips is really important. Heartless Summoning. This one I was a little apprehensive on when I first looked into it, but I think it does a lot of great work. Spells cost 2 less to cast. The -1/-1 really just doesn't come into effect, so you're really just getting, when you have Henzie out, a 3 reduction, which you can just storm the board with so much crazy stuff. Solemn Simulacrum, good old sad robot. Love this art for him. He's a 2/2 for 4. When he ETBs, you get a land, and when he dies, you draw. But if you blitzed him out, that's another trigger of drawing another card, and then he kills himself, so you get to draw 2 cards. Really good value with him. Nature's Lore, like I said, a lot of our ramp is going to be 2-drop because we want to make Henzie on 3, so we're going to go get a forest card, put that into play. Farseek, similar stuff. Or after Henzie's in play, and maybe we need more land, that's why we have this. It's a Migration Path, it's 4 mana, 3 in a generic, search your library for up to 2 basics, put them into play, tapped, shuffle. Also has cycling, so it doesn't kind of just get stuck in your hand as garbage later in the game. Ignoble Hierarch, 1 mana, Exalted. The Exalted part doesn't really come into effect here. It's just 1 mana bird, essentially, so we're running both of those. Make sure we can get that stuff going. Skuro Tribuilder, this dude's great. You can't blitz him out, but he's just there as that 2-drop, go get a land kind of guy. Rampant Rejuvenator. This one is so fun to blitz, just because the ETBs with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So you drop him for 4, he's a 2/2, he's blitzed out, and then when he dies, you go get X lands where X is his power and put them into play. And it's not tapped either, so you can just go get them, put them into play. So you blitz him in, because he does cost 4, so you blitz him out for 3, and then go get 2 lands, and then your next turn you have a lot of other crazy stuff you can go get. Seed Guide Ash. This dude's pretty crazy. 4 generic and a green, so he costs 4 pretty much when you blitz him out, because you're going to want to blitz him because he has a death trigger. So when he is put into a graveyard from play, you search your library up to 3 forest cards. That's the key thing here, is just cards. So you can go get your Triomes, you could go get any of your Shocks, any of that kind of stuff, and then put them into play tapped, and then shuffle. So really good stuff there. And it's a 4/4 for 4 effectively with the blitz reduction. Then we're going to do some removal. So Culling Ritual is just so good. Destroy all their soul rings, all their rocks, all your rocks if you need to just ramp pretty hard. Just 4 mana. It can really just set people back to the Stone Age, especially with all of the treasure synergies that are out. Really, really good card. I see myself playing it more and more as time goes on. Assassin's Trophy, just flexible. This art's great. It's got Vraska on it, super cool. But just destroying target permanent. We're a very combat-focused deck. We do have some combos later on, but a lot of our things are going to be just damage or triggers that way. So getting rid of anything that might get in our way for that, like a glacial chasm or just stuff that you might not be able to, having this flexible removal really helps, and the land really isn't a problem. Druid of Purification. This guy, nuts. He can often like sow a lot of hostility between a lot of the other players just through his interesting ways that he acts. With his enter the battlefield effect, starting with you, each player chooses an artifact or enchantment that you don't control, and then you destroy each permanent chosen this way. So, oftentimes, you'll be like, well, I don't like your enchantment, and then other people, they can all vote for the same one, and that would be a pretty effective way to use this type of removal, but that's not how it goes. They're like, well, you blew up my stuff, so I'll blow up your stuff. So it often gets 3 things for one, and they can't be stuff that you are attached to anyway, so it's pretty cool. Indrix Stomp Howler. This guy, he's a little expensive for what he does, but just having an ETB, for 5, but a 4 with that cost reduction through Henzie, allows you to destroy an artifact or enchantment. And there's just a lot of enchantments that can kind of get in our way, like prison effects or any of those types of things. So having him just come out for 4, swing, die, draw cards, keep your hand full, super nice. Now we're getting into, still in the removal plan here. Ravenous Chupacabra. This dude is 2 mana, 2 black for a 2/2. Winning ETBs, destroy target creature and opponent controls. Love it. Love it. It's good stuff. Then we go to Blasphemous Act. Gotta have a Wrath. Gotta have a way to just get rid of problem things. Sometimes your board isn't as threatening as you need it to be, so you just blow everybody else's up. Chaos Warp, same kind of stuff, man. 2/1, destroy target permanent, and then whatever you're gonna hopefully shuffle into is gonna be better than what you're currently dealing with. Birthing Pod. So these next effects are going to be sacrificing effects to go on top of Henzie's Blitz triggers. So Blitz, it puts the effect on the card, so you still get the card draw when it dies. It doesn't have to be sacked to its Blitz trigger, so you can sack them for extra value for things like this, like Birthing Pod. Everybody knows Birthing Pod, but if you don't, it's 3 mana and a Phyrexian Green, and it breaks the game. It's 1 mana and a Phyrexian Green and a tap to activate its ability. You sack a creature, and you go get one with 1 plus its converted mana cost and put it into play. So, insane. And then if you're sacking blitzed creatures, you still get to draw a card first, and then you go tutor, get other stuff. Pretty crazy. Industrial Advancement, this one is just an insane card. It does so much work. So at the beginning of your end step, before you sack a creature to its blitz trigger, you can sack it to Industrial Advancement instead. And then you look at the top X cards, where X is that mana value of that creature, and then you just put a creature from among them into play. So it's just so much value. Disciple of Bolas. This dude is crazy to blitz out. He would cost 3 to blitz, and then you just can sack another creature in your main phase 2, and you gain life, draw cards, and you would draw an extra card, so just so much extra value to gain on top of that. Phyrexian Altar. Crazy good value card. So it can combo with some other stuff in here, but essentially it's just a 3 mana generic artifact where you sack a creature, add a mana of any color. Greater Good. This is another good one. Just sack a creature, draw cards equal to its power, then discard 3 cards. Often our creatures, as you'll see, going to have pretty large power. So we'll just be drawing, discarding. We have Recursion, so not super worried about our stuff sitting in the graveyard. Evolutionary Leap. This can really help us just, stay stocked for next turn, and just constantly keep threats rolling in. Because, for 2 mana, you can drop it on turn 2. Oftentimes, people are going to remove this if they've played against Evolutionary Elite before. So you might want to save it until you have a game plan for it. But, if you need to set up and it goes with your curve, it's really nice. But essentially, you pay a green, sack a creature, reveal until you get another creature off your deck, put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Really nice, so you can blitz something out. It dies, you draw a card, and then you cycle till you get another creature card, and then you just keep getting gas. So, refills your hand, keeps your hand stocked, and more importantly, keeps it stocked with creatures. Life's Legacy. This one, as an additional cost to cast this 2 mana, you sack a creature, and then you draw cards equal to its power, which is just a good effect on your main phase 2. Get rid of your Atali, boom, just draw a ton of cards. Viscera Seer. Super nice, just 1 mana, not much investment here, and you can just sack a creature to scry. Always good to have a Viscera Seer. This is our recursion plan. So Timeless Witness is 2 generic and 2 green, and it's just a Eternal Witness with flashback, really. So when it ETBs, you return target creature, or not target creature, just target card from your graveyard to your hand, and then you can eternalize her, or essentially she just comes back, but she's a token, you exile her and make another, it's a zombie human shaman. And then, speaking of Eternal Witness, here she is. You know, when Eternal Witness ETBs, you return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Really nice. You know, just blitz. Or you can't blitz her out, but you can blitz Timeless Witness out. So that's nice. Archpriest of Shadows. This one I've been playing with. You know, it's not super new, but it's new to this deck. It's got backup 1. It's got Death Touch. It's a 5 cost. 4/4. But when this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you back it up. You just get some insane value off this. You can blitz it in, and so it has haste, and you're able to get in. And it's got Death Touch, so it does have its own evasion in that way. Phyrexian Delver. This guy is just super chill. You know, 3 generic and 2 black for a 3/2, and then when he comes into play, return target creature from your graveyard to play, and you lose life. Equals that card's converted mana cost. Really nice. It's really fun to pull that back with something, to pull another thing back, and it can really just expand your board state if you're kind of behind. Really nice. Junji of the Midnight Sky. This guy is insane to blitz out. I love him because he has a death trigger. So he's a 3 cost, 2 black, and he's a 5/5 flying with menace, so he's already a huge threat on his own. But when he dies, you choose 1. You can have your opponent's discard and lose 2 life, so he can damage. But the big thing you're probably going to do is put target non-dragon creature from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So it can be anything from any graveyard. So if some other decks are having some spicy stuff, then you can grab theirs, but often you're just going to grab your own stuff. Bringer of the Last Gift. This one is, it's living death on a body. So you have to cast them from your hand to get the living death trigger, but when I've had it done. It's an 8 cost 6/6 flyer, but it can really just swing the game for you because all of your bangers are going to be way, way bigger. And your whole deck is based on ETBs, dying, attacking, so it's great. So you might even sack a board with a bunch of death triggers and then get even more value. Incarnation Technique. This card's crazy fun. You just choose someone who, there's always like 1, if not 2 people, who are just not going to have good creatures. Like they might have they're a tribal strategy, so maybe they have tiny guys, they're trying to go wide. You can afford to give them 1 for you to get 2 of your big dudes, so for 5 mana, this is insane. Gamekeeper. This guy's nuts to blitz. So he costs 3 and a green, so he would cost 3 mana total to blitz him out for a 2/2. And when he dies, you exile him, and then you reveal cards till you get a creature from the top of your deck, and then he just goes into play. So it's pretty awesome. But you do have to put all other cards revealed that way into your graveyard, but that's not really that big of a deal for you, because you're probably going to hit a creature pretty quick anyway. Thragtusk. These are more of the utility blitz creatures. Thragtusk is definition of utility here. When he ETBs, you gain life, and when he dies, he leaves a 3/3 behind, so you can blitz him out to gain life, swing in for 5. If he gets blocked, who cares? Then you draw a card, and he replaces himself, so it's super cool. Atsushi, the Blazing Sky, he's in here for ramp. You can blitz him out, so he'd be a 3 cost 4/4 flying trampler, and when he dies, typically what you're going to do is create 3 treasures, but it's also not too bad to exile the top 2 cards. You can play them until the end of your next turn, so that's nice. Kura, the Boundless Sky. All these Kamigawa dragons, man. They're so fun, so good. All these death triggers are great. You can search your library for 3 lands. Doesn't have to be basics, and you put them in your hand. Or you can make an XX Spirit, where X is the number of lands you control. So he's already a 4/4 flyer with Death Touch, so he's a big body on his own. But if you blitz him out, you can just make a huge land. Mitotic Slime. This guy is nuts. He comes in, he's great to blitz. He would cost 4 to blitz in. He's a 4/4, and when he dies, he makes 2 2/2s, and when the 2/2s die, they make 2 1/1s. So he just keeps splitting and splitting and splitting, and we have all those sack outlets to get so much value. So you could just, him alone in a Phyrexian Altar is just so much mana to just go nuts. But either way, Primeval Herald, this guy's pretty fun because he is an ETB and attack trigger. So you blitz him out, he's a 3/1. You don't care if he dies. He's a 3/1, so he might take something else with him, but the big thing is, you just blitz him out for the haste. So he ETB'd and he'll attack this turn, and it'll trigger him twice, so you search your library for a basic, put it into play tap. So he's just ramping you 2 lands. Tree Shaker Chimera. This big boy is a real headache for your opponents just because this first trigger of all creatures able to block Tree Shaker Chimera do so, and it's just insane. If you blitz him out, he's just a huge 8/5 that, you just pick whatever wants to die on your opponent's board and you kill it because it has to block him. And then when he dies, you draw 3 cards, and then you draw an extra card if he was blitzed. Crazy. Ilharg, this dude is nuts. So, he costs 5, and then he's a 6/6, so he's already ahead there. And when he attacks, you put a creature from your hand into play tapped and attacking, and then you bounce that creature at the beginning of the next end step. But When he dies or is put into exile, you can put him third from the top of your library. So he's impossible to really get rid of. And there's a lot of, you have, like you've seen, you have a lot of ETB triggers. And if you swing and you just keep using a creature with ETBs, like for example, this next guy here, Atali. So you swing, put Atali into play, you get Atali's ETB trigger, Atali bounces to your hand next turn, or at the end of your end step, do it again, and just make people cry. That's what it does. Alright, so Atali. Atali is disgusting. Atali is a 7/7 for 7, so it's pretty even costed here. And what you get to do with it is when it ETBs, you get to exile cards from the top of your opponent's libraries, each one of them, and it's each player, so I exile too, but it's just nuts. And then you get to cast those cards. And it's a May, you don't have to, but you get to cast them without paying any mana costs, so it's just insane. And then if you're able to pay the 9 and 2 Phyrexian, you flip it into this monster. It's essentially just Blightsteel, Trample Indestructible, 11/11, and then they get that many poison counters when it hits them. Just a awfully degenerate card. Very fun to hit the battlefield. Often people are just ready to give up when they see him come in. He's crazy. Bane of Progress. This is just a good grab when you're playing against an enchantment player, right, or an artifact deck. It'll destroy all artifacts, all enchantments in play, and you get a +1/+1 counter on Bane of Progress for each permanent destroyed this way. Can really just send people back to the Stone Age, and then you also have a giant beater. So just really good stuff. And if you blitzed him in, he's huge, blew up all the stuff, maybe even blew up all of your opponent's defenses that they had if they're an artifact deck, artifact creatures, or enchantment creatures, and then you get to swing through and then draw cards again. Crazy. Woodfall Primus, this guy, he can be a combo piece if you have Machias in play. But essentially what he's doing is he enters play, you destroy a target non-creature permanent, you persist him, so if when he dies, he comes back with a -1/-1 counter on it, and then you can just destroy another target non-creature permanent. So the big thing with him is if you have Machias out and a sack outlet, you can destroy all of your opponent's lands, and then it's just Scoop City from there, really. Kogla, the Titan Ape. This guy is super fun. He's got that ETB trigger that combos really great with Ilharg as removal, just because you attack with Ilharg, put him out, he ETBs, he fights a creature, and then he's also a 7/6 coming in, and then when he attacks, you don't get the attack trigger if you put him in tapped and attacking, but if you blitzed him out, he still gets his attack trigger, and you destroy target artifact or enchantment, and then you can even bounce him. You can pay 2, return target human you control, and then you can give him indestructible if you need to, but the biggest thing you're going to use him for is just his ETB and attack trigger. In just one turn, if you blitzed him out, he could blow up a blocker and artifact or enchantment. Pretty nuts. Deathbringer Regent. This guy is here as a board wipe. So, he's here to blitz out as a 5/6, and when he enters the battlefield, if you cast him from your hand and there are more than 5 creatures, other creatures on the battlefield, you destroy all other creatures. So he stays in play. So you can even not blitz him out, but it's really fun to just blow up everything, hit for 5, then draw more cards, and then just you'll be able to establish more big threats faster than other people can rebuild their protection. So it's really good. Greed Warden of Marasa. He probably should have been in the Recursion plan, but he's just such a big boy that we just decided to put him in here. So he's a 6-cost 5/4. When he enters the battlefield, you can return target card from your graveyard to your hand. And then when he dies, you do the same thing. So if you blitz him out, it's 2 cards and a card into your hand because you drew. So it's a 1 for 3. It's insane. So much value. Kogla again. This dude is nuts. I mean, on this one, he has the same thing where you can fight target creature you don't control. I've had so much fun with this guy where him and Ilharg just can wipe boards. It's so funny because he's a 7/7. Just a big, huge threat boy. But yeah, he can also give himself trample and haste until end of turn if you don't have your guy out. But he can also be discarded to destroy a target artifact or enchantment, and then you shuffle him into your deck and you draw a card to replace him. This is my secret lair Atali. The T-Rex from the Jurassic secret lair, or the Jurassic Park secret lair. Really cool. Essentially, 6/6 for 6. When he attacks, each exile a top card of each player's library, and you may cast those cards without paying their mana costs. Really excellent creature. Noxious Gearhulk, this dude's nuts. He's got a great ETB thing where you can just blow up something, gain a ton of life. Really helpful to blitz that boy in. Archon of Cruelty. This one is so disgusting to be blitzed. just because it's an ETB and attack trigger. So I mean, if you really wanted to go in on somebody, like the problem player that you're having difficulty dealing with, you know, you just swing at them. So target opponent sacks a creature, discards a card, loses 3 life, you draw a card, gain 3 life, and it could be 6 life, draw 2 cards. Wormcoil Engine, just it's a board and a body, you know. It's a one-hit wonder. 6 mana, 6/6, Death Touch lifelink. When it dies, it splits those keywords. So then you have a 3/3 with Death Touch and a 3/3 with lifelink. Just excellent to blitz out because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain with this boy. Same thing with Grave Titan. He protects you, so you blitz him out, and then you get the 2/2. You get the 2/2 zombies when he enters, and the 2 extra ones when he attacks. And then whoever you're swinging at has to block a 6/6 Death Touch. Love the art on these specific on these giant boys. It's so nice. You know, Grave Titan looks so good. You can barely see anything on that face, but love the whole look for him. It's so good. Same thing with Inferno Titan. Right, Inferno Titan has an ETB and an attack trigger, so if you blitz him out, he deals 6 damage, so he can wipe out a token player pretty quick. Or he's just a big beater, so you don't always have to blitz him out. He's just good to have in general, because his ETB trigger alone is really nice. Warstorm Surge. This is insane. You know, it's a lot of investment, so I understand if people don't want to include this. It can be a little bit win more, but it's just really good. You know, you're dropping so many heaters, and they often just are costing less and less with Henzie's discount and your other discounts. But whenever a creature ETBs, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So you can just burn people down with Warstorm Surge. Now we're getting into the combos. So there are a few combos in this deck. This is definitely, a higher power kind of strategy we're running with Henzie. So, Mikaeus. We combo Mikaeus with Murderous Redcap is really our main goal here. So essentially, you have a sack outlet, you have a sack outlet, Murderous Redcap, ETBs, and it deals 1 damage, and then you sack it, and then it has Undying, so it gets its persist counter, so it gets its -1/-1, and then Mikaeus says other non-humans get a +1/+1, and then they have their own Undying or whatever, but it just negates his -1/-1, so he comes back in, pings somebody, rinse and repeat until everyone's pinged to death. You can also, like we said earlier, just replace Murderous Redcap with the other big dude who exiles non-creatures, and then pretty much the same thing happens. So, except for you're just exiling all non-creature permanents that you don't control, and then you win from there. That's Murderous Redcap's combo with Mikaeus. We can go fetch that with Protean Hulk. So what you do with Protean Hulk is typically you get this guy. So it's when Protean Hulk has a death trigger. So you can either go get Mikaeus, or you can go get Murderous Redcap and like Viscera Seer and something else, because it's any number of creatures. They just have to have 6 of their mana value or less. So you just go get anything that you need in a combination of it, and you can just go pick up the pieces that you might need with Protean Hulk's trigger. And then these are some of our combat-focused things we're doing here. So we run Carlock because, I mean, it's Carlock, right? Like, oh yeah. Look at that. Ooh, Carlock. Whenever you attack, if it's the first combat phase, untap all attacking creatures, they gain first strike, and then there's another combat phase. So all those attack triggers, oh, so good. Crazy. And then even crazier is this crazy dude here, Morag, Fury of Akum. This dude's nuts. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 each time it has attacked this turn, and then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's another combat phase. So you can get a few. You can get a few combat phases, and then it untaps all creatures. I mean, typically you're just getting 2, but there's certain ways you can do it. If you had like a Steve or something else, you can do some interesting things to get some more. But very fun stuff with Morag. Now we're getting into land. This hefty stack here. So these are our multicolor, running Path of Ancestry, because it's fun to just cast him. I mean, you're really only ever going to cast. I think he probably is our only Devil Rogue, but it's a cheap. It's a cheap triome, so we're going to run it. We're going to run Command Tower. We're going to use Exotic Orchard, Torre's Proving Ground. So those are our triples. Those are our tri-lands that we're really running. Haven't had any issues getting his colors when I need them. We're running Malakir Mire, the MDFC. It can really, it's really used to. It's got so much good synergy when you're responding to, one of their death triggers, like, second main, your Atali's gonna die because you blitzed it, Malakir Mire, and you just go pop it back up. When it dies, comes right back, get another ETB trigger. Just too much value to not do it. And then for our other like utility kind of land, we're running Fabled Passage. So this could be a way to trigger multiple land drops per turn, but it's also here to just secure our colors, make sure we're good there. For our green and black, we're running Overgrown Tomb and Woodland Cemetery. Never really run into any issues, but always there. Run our Stomping Grounds, Cinder Glade, Game Trail, and Mossfire Valley. Those are our lands we're running for green and red. These are probably our most important colors to make sure we have, just because all of our 2-mana ramp that's not artifact is going to be green based, so just making sure we have green and red is just very important. Our black-red, Smoldering Marsh, Dragonskull Summit, Blackcleave Cliffs, and Foreboding Ruins. These are all really good. All cheap lands, 2 or fewer, so it's one of those lands that just kind of get out there early, because that's when we care the most about our pips, so that's when we're trying to get things going. And then we're running our basics. So we're running our New Capenna basics, because Henzie, like I said, green. So we're running 8 forests. And then here's our pretty mountains. We're running 5 mountains, and then we're running, boom, run these swamps back. So we'll run 7 swamps. So that's really what we're looking at in terms of our basic land plan. But anyway, let me scoop all this up. Woohoo! That will be it for Henzie Toolbox Torre. This dude is really, really fun. He can definitely be pretty oppressive because he's just really hard to remove. He puts your opponents in a situation where it's like, do we want him to just have the 1 cost reduction, or do we want to use his resources to give him a 2 or a 3? Because if you keep killing Henzie, when I cast him, then he gives me a 3 mana reduction, then like everything costs like nothing. It's insane, and then you're not worried about 1 big threat blitzing out. You're worried about me blitzing like 3 big threats. So really makes a hard choice for where your opponents are going to go, where they're going to take it. But it's really, really interesting. I have a lot of fun playing it. And I mean, Jund is such a fun color combination. Very combat focused. So if you enjoy that style of things, just like dropping these really strong ETB big fat boys, and you want to stick in the green colors instead of going over to the other side, this is definitely a good deck I would recommend. But outside of that, that's really it I have for Henzie. So if you enjoyed this deck tech, you enjoyed what going through this with me, as always, I'd really love a like. That'd really help this channel, as well as a comment, maybe another deck tech I should look into, as well as, or what I should do. And please, remember, if you liked it enough, to subscribe, and you want to see more cool stuff like this T-Rex. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.